There we go. If you have a pen and paper, or if you're on your computer and you have a chance to write, we have some time at the end. I'd love for you to just even write out some of your prayers, actually put hand to paper. I think sometimes God even clarifies and speaks to us in some ways, even just through doing that. So just get yourself ready for that. Just a pen and paper or an app on your computer where you can write. Well, why don't we get going? Well, welcome. Looks like we've got a bit of a smaller group today, but that's great. Every one of you I'm glad you're here and setting this time aside to just pray and to listen to God's voice for you, wherever you might be at. Thought we could just start this afternoon just by taking a few minutes and just preparing our own hearts, just opening our own hearts, knowing I don't know what your day has been like today. I feel like mine's been a bit all over the map already, with a few conversations with people about very different things. Some things that are weighing heavy on my own mind, other things that are, that are on my to-do list. I don't know where you might be coming from, but it's just a helpful way to kind of center your own heart on Jesus as we go. If you want, you can even do it physically with your body, but the first thing, it will just take a minute. And if you want to, even physically, just put your palms up in this posture of sort of opening up your palms. I'm not sure if you read even Melissa's blog on her day 2 reading. It just talked about things that we have to release, that came out of the reading of Deuteronomy 14. And so if it's your concerns, your worries, your fears that have come on you for the day, if it's things that you're feeling frustrated or angry about, if it's things that you feel like you are out of control in your life and you need to somehow get control of it or sort it out that way, why don't you just take a minute and open your palms as an expression of just releasing that to God. Just say to him, Jesus, I give you the things that are on my mind and on my heart. Just take a minute to do that. And now know that as we step into this, this short chunk of the day, but even beyond that, well beyond this next half hour, into the rest of your day, into the rest of your week, God is with you. He goes with you. And he pours out constantly. He is pouring out his blessing on you. And so, take the next couple minutes, and you can even just put your palms down as like a symbol of, like, when you put your hands on someone and you bless them, just know, like, even in this moment, Jesus is doing this for you. And so receive his blessing. Even just ask him, Jesus, is there a word of blessing you want to give me now? I want to receive it, whatever you have for me. Allow your heart to be prepared for whatever word of blessing God wants to speak to you now. So, as we go into today's prayer and reflection time, this is really the heart of just what God put on my mind to lead us into today. It's the prayer of blind Bartimaeus when Jesus came past him. So we're going to read through that passage a few times and just have some time to listen and to pray. But this is the heart of his prayer. He said, "Rabbi, I want to see." I know for me, I think this has been coming up in a number of different ways over the last week or two, which is why it was just on my mind to lead us into this prayer today. I think this word, this calling that I've just felt in different ways from God, both for me personally, but I think for the church as a whole in this season, it's just like want to be aware. There's so many things that are going on in our world right now, in our certainly in our country and in our continent right now. Not only, obviously in terms of things like racism and systemic racial injustice and these kinds of things, but also just in the realities of the season that we're in with COVID. That it is so very easy to go through a season like this, to hunker down, to focus our eyes on our own selves, and to not be aware of the things that are going on around us. And I think when we have experiences like this, not only in terms of COVID, but certainly in terms of the kind of like worldwide response we've been seeing, even to, like racial protests and these kinds of things happening, not only in the States, but in our own country and all over the world. This now is an invitation for us, one, I think, of many that we have to say, oh, is God actually wanting us to open our eyes and to see some things that maybe in the past we haven't been aware of, maybe at all, or certainly not to the extent that we could be. So I just want to, I want to leave it at that. I want to leave lots of space for God to speak to you how how you need to hear and how in the way that he wants to speak to you. But this is the heart of the prayer today. Rabbi, I want to see, what might that look like for you as you reflect on the passage. So I'm going to read this passage from Mark chapter 10. And as I read it slowly, I just want to invite you to even actually put yourself in this story. Actually imagine the scene going on around you. And you don't necessarily have to be Bartimaeus. There might be, there's several characters in this story. Maybe you're even someone who's a bystander, sort of watching from a distance or whatever. I want to invite you though to put yourself in the story and just ask, who are you in this? And then in light of that, is there a word or is there a phrase or is there an image that's going to resonate, that resonates most with you? Okay, so here we go. Mark 10, verse 46 to 52. Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. if you'd like, you're welcome to respond in the chat as well, and just even write down briefly, what image came to mind. You don't have to necessarily say why or what the significance of it is, but if there's a word or phrase or image from this that kind of resonated with you, you're welcome to share that with others as well. My video continues to go black on me for some reason, so I'm just not gonna I'm gonna stop fighting it, and you'll just see my name up there, but we'll continue to go through here, guys. I'm gonna read it again, and just invite you to reflect on the question at the bottom of the screen now after the second reading. Just listen. Again, continue to keep yourself in the story if you can. If you found that it was difficult to focus or lock onto something on the first reading, just go back and try to do that again and see what comes to mind. Feel like something stuck out, then you can go on to this next question, like in terms of what's significant about this for you today and what might God be saying to you. Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. I love the images that a number of you are sharing. This is so good. To me, this is a big part of our grounded times, is even just to hear what God is speaking through each other. I think that just clarifies and encourages the things he might be even speaking to each of us individually, So it's beautiful. So thank you for sharing in the chat, friends. I'm going to read it a third time. And, again, ask God as you read through this way. Okay, so he's been speaking to you. Certain images and words have been sticking out. So what does this mean in terms of what he might be calling you to do to respond? What does it make you want to do? And have some dialogue with him on that. Tell him that. Share with him what it makes you want to do, what you think he's asking you to do, and listen to what he might say to you. Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. Okay, I'm going to read it one more time. And this time I actually want you, if you haven't been, I know some of you have been writing in the chat, which again is just so beautiful. I actually want you to put pen to paper though, and actually write out a prayer to Jesus based on what you've, how you've been engaging with him through this prayer time. If you're on your computer or on a iPad or something like that and want to just write it out in an app, that's totally fine. But I find oftentimes when I actually put pen to paper or start typing things out, just an even greater level of clarity or even something new, like a new insight, a new revelation comes to mind when I actually take that additional step. So I want to encourage you to do that. Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately, he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. Well, friends, that's our 30 minutes. So if you're in the middle of writing your prayer, you can certainly take the next few minutes and continue to just finish writing that out and invite God to continue to just solidify and clarify what he's been speaking to you. But as you go into the rest of your day, I just want to give you, two blessings from this passage. I want to bless you with the ability to be unashamed and reckless in crying out for Jesus' mercy, knowing that he will hear your cry, just like this man. He was so reckless and unashamed to do that. And I also want to bless you as you go through your day and your week to be a person like those in the crowd who heard this man's cry. And they responded to him, knowing that Jesus was responding to him. Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you. So I want to bless you also to not only know that Jesus hears your cry, so you can be reckless about that, but to be a person who hears and sees the cries of others. And in whatever way it looks like, to lead them to the one who heals and restores. So God bless, friends.